Thank you for joining us today for this event. As a reminder, we will be recording this event in order to share it with our campus community who could not attend. Creating a sustainable workplace begins with the understanding that we are all connected and we all want to make a positive impact for ourselves, our families, and our community. Here at NC State, we do amazing work, but it's really important to recognize that our contributions to society are continually being paid for by land that was taken from Indigenous peoples. And not just here in North Carolina, as we do sit on land that was once stewarded by the people of the Tuscarora and the Catawba tribes, but also because of land taken from Indigenous peoples across the country. This acknowledgement is just one way that we can both understand and also break the cycle of colonization. And it's a profound feeling to realize this connection, but it can also be very inspiring. And this is why I'm so fortunate to be here with leaders of sustainability on our campus to discuss ways that we can all connect and create a sustainable workplace for everyone to share. And so I'm going to kickstart us off with just talking a little bit about our program here at NC State University, waste reduction and, oops, sorry, I just asked you, hit a wrong button. So if somebody got that asked to unmute, you can ignore it. Waste Reduction and Recycling Department. My name is Lani St. Hill. I use she, her pronouns, and Waste Production and Recycling is your campus waste provider. Many of you may not know that. Hopefully you all do since you've been with the university a while, but a goal that we have is to provide data-driven solutions for waste management, and that enables us to create zero waste programming and ongoing programs and educational outreach for our campus community in order to take our campus to zero waste. So you may be thinking, what kind of data does the waste department gather? Well, a lot actually. We track everything that our campus generates. And so that's all of the different material streams. In this graph, this is an example of what's actually in our waste to landfill. This is an aggregate of our campus from a waste audit that was done in 2019. And as you can see, for our campus, we actually are sending majority of our waste to landfill is compostable. So just over 48%. And this is why, if you ever follow us here at NC State Recycles, or you look into our programming, compost expansion is so key to what we do because we know this is a vital part of how we do achieve zero waste. So that is one reason that we have created the Zero Waste Workplace. Let's go back to presentation there. And our Zero Waste Workplace, it basically entails 4 components. And you may be thinking, oh my goodness, how, I don't know if we can do this or we've got this already, but our department believes that the places you occupy can really inspire change and create change for everyone, right? And it can influence behaviors. And so that's why one of the first steps we do is we look at all of the bins that are in your building. Are they right-sized for the waste that's being generated? Are they right-sized for the housekeeping teams? Are the housekeeping teams able to identify what it is they're supposed to be doing and take it to the right place? And are the users able to identify, what do I put in this bin? Because honestly, that's like one of the biggest things, that shock and the deer in the headlights of, I don't know where to throw my stuff. And so what we do is we right size the bins, we color coordinate them, and we provide these backer boards. Another thing of what we do is actually give everyone one of these mini bins and for at your desk side. And that is because it helps us avoid, sorry, I'm giving you, going a little crazy on this slide, but helps us avoid all of this plastic bag waste. We know from the data that we generate over 300,000 pounds of just plastic liners in our waste bins that we end up sending to the landfill. So if you imagine 300,000 pounds of plastic bags, these aren't retail bags from shopping. This is something that's actually really in our control about how we line our bins. And we know that one of the simplest things we can do is remove desk side waste bins. This is a picture from Weisiger Brown, our athletics partners. And they went to the mini bin system about 4 years ago. And this is just a week's worth of bags for them that we will no longer have to purchase and install, but also we will no longer have to send to the landfill, right? And so it has really big implications when we think about overall impact and how to magnify our impact. A second thing is composting. As you heard me say earlier, being able to divert compostable items away from the landfill is key for us. And so we're excited to know that compost expansion is continuing across campus. Yay, Textiles. And we will be looking at how we can divert food waste from break rooms and in gathering areas, as well as paper towels from restrooms. Really understanding the buildings and how they are used is also key to managing your waste. So a big part of our program is looking at what you do in your building, because every building operates very differently. And it's not just within colleges, like one college is operating this way. It's within the college, there are numerous departments that do very interesting, radical sometimes things and can generate some very interesting items. And it takes a lot of smart people to really come together and figure out, what can we do with this? Are there ways for us to reuse it here on campus or reuse it within the community? Or are there ways that we can find a partner in terms of waste management to collect that and take that and recycle it and repurpose it for another reason? And so this is also a key component of what we do within waste reduction and recycling. And as always, ongoing education, because honestly, that is key for us. Helping people to understand not just what goes where, how to recycle right, how to compost correctly, but also how our own decisions and individual actions and consumption habits, how they take shape when we're in this landscape, especially at work, and how our behaviors at work have a huge impact, not just for campus, but our community. I just wanted to give a really quick shout out to another thing that many of you all maybe don't know, and that is our office does help create zero waste events. So whether you need the composting infrastructure, such as the bags and the bins, or you even need compostable supplies, that is something that you can get from our office, all right? And if you just visit go.ncsu.edu/zero waste events, you will find that information online. And of course, from our website, you can access a lot of information from everything about reuse to zero waste, the compost process, and how we handle compost, because yes, we do close the loop here on campus with our own NC State Compost Facility and Research Cooperative. That was a very brief look at one of our zero waste programs here on campus. I wanted to kind of slide that in before we really kind of get to the nitty gritty of how staff and faculty work together to take this, to go beyond the bin and really look at how you can make and magnify a sustainable workplace happen. So always feel free to contact me, but at this time, I do want to hand the reins over to the Director of Sustainability, Carla Davis.
Excellent, thanks Lani, and thanks for all that your office and you do to promote zero waste efforts on campus. Let me see if I can get my screen to share. One second. All right, y'all seeing it? Great, excellent. Well, I wanted to introduce a program to you that may be a good tool for your office to use if you're trying to boost sustainability in your workplace. So the Sustainability Office has a Sustainable Workplace certification. It started in 2014, and since then we've had about 70 campus workplaces complete this certification. And what the certification offers is the opportunity for a department to educate itself about what they can do, actions they can do to be more sustainable, and then also get recognition for those efforts. let's see, how does it work? So it's a point-based system, and you'll see the 7 categories there where we offer there's different actions with each of these 7 categories that your office can do to reduce energy and water on campus, to promote health and wellness, to reduce your transportation impact on campus. There's a whole list of things that you can do, and your office will earn points for each one of those actions that you're able to complete. And so there's an online resource guide that you kind of see as a screenshot on the right. And that is kind of the guide for how you evaluate whether this is something that your office would be interested in doing. We update this guide every few years just to account for new changes on campus. So the next update will be happening next semester. So if you go in and you look at it now and you think, oh, well, maybe I'll wait, we'll have a new guidance and new credits that will be offered as of hopefully by the end of next semester. It is an online certification form. So there's a link in here and I can share it with you at the end. So it's easy. You can go on at any point and fill it out. And you get a certification level based on the number of actions that you complete. And you can see that there's 3 levels offered: contributor, steward, and then champion level. And each of these comes with its own seal that you can use on your website or promotion material. And each also gets a certificate that you can print out at the end if that's helpful for your department. In addition to that, we recognize sustainable workplaces on the NC State Sustainability website, and then also during the annual celebration of NC State Sustainability, which is an event that happens in April as part of Earth Month, and hopefully we'll be back in person this year. And you can see this is the university housekeeping staff from a couple of years ago, and they're all holding the laser cut custom plaques that we give all the sustainable workplaces on campus. And so if you want to learn more and complete the certification, you can see the link here that you can log on and check it out. And then similar to what Lani mentioned, we also have a sustainable event certification. So if your workplace is one that also puts on campus events, there's an additional certification that you can check out that gives you some recognition for efforts in that field. So I'm happy to answer it. Lani, I don't know if you want to answer questions now or save them till later.
Can be now if people have them, or we can kind of absorb and also wait.
Sure, that's fine. I'll also check the chat too.
Okay, I don't see any at the moment, but I do know that the Sustainable Workplace Certification works with events of all sizes, as Carla mentioned. And so I just think it's really cool. It's something that I often look at when I'm going to events that I attend to see whether they have been certified. And I know that makes me want to reach out to them and be like, why or why not? So it's something to keep in mind for all of you who plan events, that it is important. And I definitely look at that. I believe I have Melissa as being able to share her screen. Will that work for the Sustainability Committee at the Wilson College of Textiles? Yeah.
No, now I can talk. Can you see the presentation okay?
Can you put it on present mode?
Yeah, I'm getting there.
Great, thank you.
Okay. So it'll be the 3 of us presenting, myself, Melissa Sharp, Dr. Karen Leonas, and Mr. Shawn Dunning. I will get us started. Karen?
Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and start and tell you, this committee was formed several years ago, and we were given a charge, and that charge was really to identify and communicate opportunities and make recommendations for the college to continually seek improvements leading towards a sustainable environment within the college and externally. And so that's kind of been our guiding principle that we've gone through each year. We look at ways in which we can do this. And we really try and be very inclusive with items that we actually go on. Or that projects that go on. And a lot of what we do is actually driven by our students and the Wilson College community versus just our committee, coming up with things. We want to enable the college-related implementation of the university's sustainability strategic plan. And we're going to talk a little bit about some of the sustainability grants that we've gotten that have enabled us to do this. We like to facilitate the collaboration and generate the ideas for research, education, engagement involving sustainability, working with the relevant university groups across campus, and then also externally, looking at processes, products, standards, and the whole aim is to improve sustainability. And so in the presentation, we're going to kind of go through some of the things that we've done just in the past few years that identify this.
So you want to talk about the green zone bins? So one of our main areas of focus is diverting waste streams from the landfill.
And just to go on and talk about that, we have the green zone bins located throughout the college, and we actually have a bigger collection bin outside, and we've involved the students in this. We have a student group that actually participates in helping us do this, but we also open this up to community. And so sometimes people will contact us and say, we've got these items, and what do you have somewhere? And so we're happy to work with our community partners and other partners across campus in collecting this. And Shawn is really the one that worked the contract out with Green Zone, but we did a lot of vetting to make sure that they didn't just throw it in a landfill somewhere, that actually was being recycled, and we did that. So it's been exciting to see that increase. And I don't know, Melissa or Shawn, if you want to talk about the expansion, not just individuals types of things, but things from the labs that have come in.
Yeah, so one of the nice things is we do have facilities here that produce textiles. So having the green zone textile recycling bins helps us divert not just clothing from our students, but actual production waste here in the college. And the really nice thing about this model too is that we do generate some income from the poundage of material that is put into the bins, and that actually provides funding to one of our student organizations. So in exchange, they empty the bins into the large bin outside, and then they're able to have funds on the backside to help support some of their activities. So that's been a really successful program for us, and it's one that a lot of people have been excited to, very visual. So it's engaging with the community. The bins are out and about around our college. Shawn, do you want to talk about the other pieces here?
Yes. So, and I think I point out too, this was one of the few people that would actually take those scraps. And it was a huge, whether it was rolls or scraps, there were other places that would take the clothing, but we really wanted to have a focus on some of the other things we were producing from our lab, which is huge, whether they be bobbins of, yarn or whole bolts of fabric. And they've been really good. They come, whenever we need them to. So, but yeah, we also do the plastic film. We have a lot of kind of pattern making and things that generate that plastic film. So we have a way to get rid of that. Electronics, we're doing the same as most colleges are with the yellow electronics bins, and we appreciate that. We also do, I know the K-Cups were it was a mixture of how much work it was and whether they could go into our existing waste diversion streams. And so we actually did purchase a box. We purchased boxes that from a company that does take these apart and recycles the pieces and parts that are recyclable. And those are getting better, but we, and one thing that's similar, another box that we don't have on here that we purchased was for face masks. There is actually a face mask like recycle system that they basically take those fibers and fabrics. And so where we distribute the face mask, we also have that same recycle bin for those. And those are simply both the K-Cup and the face mask are you tape the box back up when you're done, and it already has a prepaid shipping label, and you send it off. So
can I just want to add one thing. The K-Cup recycling came from outside the committee. One of our offices within the college actually proposed that and said, can you do this? And so just pointing out that a lot of this is driven by ideas the college has, or people in the college have, our Wilson College community have, and then we try and figure out, can we do this or not? So yeah, so it's really fun to get those ideas in and then be able to see if we can provide an alternative. Yeah.
Great point. Yeah, absolutely. The fabric recycling, we've kind of already talked about a lot of that. And composting, this has been a challenge. It would be really nice if the university kind of supported composting in a big way. I feel like this is you kind of go at your own pace, and WRR has been fantastic in helping us implement it, but just from a financial standpoint, I think it's going to probably cost just for the bin placement and bin constructions over $30,000 for us to get that composting bin in place. So I'm looking forward to a day when facilities is using those dollars towards these landfill diversion programs, and I know they are doing it with the bins, inside bins, and that kind of thing, which is exciting. We're going to talk and really get that word out, I think, among our community on what they can do with composting, and also take them on field trips. We're excited about doing that as well, to go see the NC State site as well, so get them excited about it. We have been supported through the Sustainability Fund grants, which has been fantastic. And this composting piece was partially supported from that, as well as some others that you'll hear about later. So I think that's good on my piece, Melissa.
Okay, great. So another big focus for us is reducing waste. Karen, you want to take the bottle filling stations?
Yeah, so one of the first grants that we actually got was for water filling stations, and we keep track of how many bottles are filled like each semester, and hopefully diverting plastic bottles out of the waste stream by people using their own bottles. This has received so much positive response by our students and faculty and staff within the college itself. In fact, it's been so popular that students have wanted them other places. So currently we have 5 stations that are strategically placed. We've saved over 12,000 water bottles. It probably would be more if it weren't for the pandemic last year, but we do what we can. And so, this not only helps us with the students that are in and out of our building all the time, the faculty that work and staff that work here all the time, but also our ZTE group sponsors many workshops. And so we have those strategically placed, so people that are coming from the workshops also have access to them.
And we've done some other efforts with waste reduction. This past year, we installed a dishwasher to support elimination of single-use plastic water bottles for all of our short courses. So our unit teaches industry short courses that are like 3 to 5 days. So we'll have industry participants come in. And so we're providing bottled water for those classes. So that as of this year, we are no longer providing single-use plastic water bottles, but instead providing reusable drinking cups and pointing people to the water bottle filling stations. And we've also acquired an like a countertop ice maker and a carafe, so that folks can fill up their water bottles that way, or drinking cups that way as well. And so that's has just started. We've just started having people back in person for events. So we'll track how much we spent before the pandemic on water bottles and compare that to not having any. So we'll kind of have an estimation of how much we have not used. And then we're also rethinking our catering activities to reduce our food waste. We had used to provide hot breakfast and things like that. So we're just kind of taking a minute to reset on some of those items to make sure that we're being mindful with our food usage and not having a lot of food go into the trash, and also all of our food packaging. And we'll be partnering to acquire the compostables now that our compost is online as well, to really try to bring all of our events and courses to as close to zero waste as possible. Shawn?
Yes, so we are looking, we have had facilities do a solar study for us just to look at how many panels we could fit on the roof and what percentage of our power would be offset by doing that. And so we're still in discussions with them. I think there's only one building on Centennial right now that is doing that. I think Fitz Fuller has the biggest installation right now of panels. And so we do have some decent amount of south-facing roof structures, which would be helpful. I think, unfortunately, at this point, with the way the solar panels, the amount of power they produce, it's only going to offset about 5% of our power, maybe a little bit higher, maybe up to 10 at the most. But we are still looking at that, and those technologies are changing very quickly too. So, we talked a lot about the planet saving pieces of sustainability, but we also want to talk about the people saving pieces of sustainability. And that means, you know, people's work-life balance. It means their, you know, their, how do they work? Are, you know, are what they doing sustainable? Is, you know, the process that they're doing, or the something we put in place, is that sustainable? You know, I just met with the landscaping people outside about our courtyard, and we, you know, we don't want to put some new fixture in place that is really difficult to maintain. So that sustainability in our processes is equally as important to us, because it not only helps us have that work-life balance, but it also keeps that on people's mind, that we're trying to be sustainable in everything we do, not just in saving the planet. So, so when we're looking at collaborative spaces and maximizing space usage, we are trying to look at, you know, can we use flexible office spaces where people can work from home and split those offices into, you know, multiple people being able to stay in it, but also with COVID, not having to be in there at the same time. So the work-life balance, we are going to do a community garden, and this is mainly focused around growing crops that are textile related. So whether it's dyes or flax or cotton or, you know, all those types of things. I don't, you know, that's what we're focused on at the moment, not as much on the food side, but more on, can we actually grow some things that we talk about in our classes all the time? And so we have gotten approval from university architects to put that right beside of our building. And so we're kind of developing what that is going to look like as a community to support that effort. So, and again, kind of hitting at what I mentioned before with our flexible scheduling and our work-life balance is important. We want people to be able to stay here and thrive and be sustainable, right? We don't want to burn them out. So, and then in our business practices as well, our hiring practices, our funding, you know, not making decisions that we can't support in a long-term basis. That's not sustainable. We see it all the time in government where they're spending way more money than they're bringing in. And so we're trying to buck that trend a little bit and try to figure that out. And so, you know, many of you have seen that we have been named with the Wilson College of Textiles, and that came from a $28 million grant or donation from the Wilson family, from Fred Wilson. And so what we've started to do is see some payouts from that. We endowed most of those funds, but as some of those payouts are coming up, we're trying to figure out how do we put those dollars in sustainable places, including these water bottle stations, for instance, or the composting area, or you know, the water bottle reusable cups that we're buying for people. That a lot of those things are being purchased with Wilson funds. So thanks.
Shameless plug here to Zeiss Textiles Extension does have lean training that we provide, and we do provide it to some partners on campus. So if your group is interested in learning how to reduce waste in your processes, that's something we would be happy to partner with you and help you achieve. So just a little plug there.
And we are doing flex space too, Melissa, right?
That's right. You want to talk about that real quick?
No, we have two spaces, one for students to work in. So our graduate students have a space that they go in, and because graduate students never have enough space, we have a room. So I think we can have actually 4 people, but they're never all there at the same time. And I think that's one thing we do understand with graduate students, they come and go. So it's a good idea. And then you share an office right now with Dr. Cassandra Khan, because both of you are in and out of the office all the time. So it's working out really well.
So another piece of the work that the committee does is our education and outreach programming. So we do, starting this academic year, we'll be having a conference on sustainability in textiles. We're calling it the Evolving Textiles Conference. So that will be in March 16th and 17th of next spring. Our focus this year is on alternative fiber and circularity. And so the themes will evolve each year based on trends in the industry and areas that we feel like we need to address over time. So a lot of our talk this year will be focused around hemp, but also looking at circularity as a whole. And then hopefully in future years, what we'll do is kind of break that circularity concept down into separate segments so that we can, start to really address it. And our goal is to have actual working groups during the conference so that we come away with action items and not just talk, because I feel like a lot of us have been to sustainability conferences and it's a lot of preaching to the choir. And so our goal is really not to do that with this conference, but actually help people achieve, sustainability goals. Karen?
Yeah, I'll talk about the curriculum development and research. So one thing that we've tried to do, or that our faculty have been very engaged in, is actually incorporating various sustainability aspects of not just environmental, but also the social sustainability, forced labor, modern slavery kind of concepts in here as well. And so I think that because our industry is so dynamic, we're constantly looking at our curriculum to update it. So there are a lot of places where sustainability related issues are actually included. But in addition to this, in one of our freshman classes, which about 75% of our students take, we've actually put in a sustainability module, which is about 4 lectures on sustainability that go into there, as well as there's an environment and society class that's a GEP. There's an undergraduate sustainability class specifically for textiles, and then a graduate class as well. We have purchased software, the life cycle assessment software, and we actually bought what was called SemaPro, because life cycle assessment is only looking at environmental and it's data input and data output. So it's very analytically driven. And in some of the open software that's available for life cycle assessment, they go, oh, here's cotton, and now all of a sudden it becomes a t-shirt. And so for those of us in textiles, we're going, well, it really doesn't go straight from the field to a t-shirt. So SemaPro, the one that we have, actually is great because it has the modules in it, like going from fiber to yarn, and yarn to either knitted fabric or woven fabric, and even some of the finishing. So our students, both in the introductory class, they get exposure to this, as well as in the graduate class, they get that. The other thing that I'm very, very excited about that we're doing is we're aligning the research programs, everybody's research within the college, with and other activities with the UN SDGs. And I was fortunate this year that we got a PEP, one of the provost grants. And so we have a student who's going to be interviewing our faculty, and she is knowledgeable about the SDGs. And so she's actually going to make that connection, because faculty may not realize how many different SDGs that they're actually aligning with in their research. So we're hoping to put together a matrix database that can be used by faculty for collaboration within and outside of the college, as well as for the Wilson College community to look at to really identify what we're doing. So we're excited. We have a lot going on, both curriculum and research wise, with sustainability related issues. Do you want to talk about outreach?
Shawn?
Yes. So we have, we're also trying to look at how do we spread the word, right? And so field trips and lunch and learns, seminars, these are all things that we try to do. The Unify is actually going to a textile company that, which you may have heard of, with Reprieve, where they take plastic bottles and basically grind those plastic bottles up and make fibers of them. And then, they can be sewn back into garments again. So you may see, if you're ever out in, Academy Sports or those types of places, if you see that Reprieve label, that does come from North Carolina, from a plant here in North Carolina. So pretty cool. Okay.
All right.
So I'm going to talk about the UN SDGs. Like I said, we've seen that the university is going this way, and what we see going on through the landscape, not just academically, but also on a national level and international level, is aligning what we're doing with the sustainability goals. So if you don't know, there are 17 sustainability goals that were actually introduced in 2015. One fact that I didn't know, that I just learned, is there were over 8 million people that actually participated in the development of these goals. And so what we're trying to do is use that kind of as a framework to move forward and help people recognize how the work they're doing does actually connect with these. So I think what we're going to do is just go through. We've picked out a couple of these, not all of them. One thing that we don't have represented, we've done a lot of work on water. And if you look, there were several different ones, number 6 and number 14, both focus specifically on water, but it also relates to many of the other issues. And so the textile industry is a big user of water, not only from the growing of crops, but also to the care that people do with their laundry, the washing of it. And so we've had quite a few projects looking at water, everything from lower water natural fibers such as hemp, doing LCAs on that, looking at design they can go into, all the way through to looking at cold water wash that's used, which reduces energy. We've looked at microplastic release during laundering. We looked at reduction of some of the wet processes by using new technology such as plasma and foam to deliver those things. So those are just some on those two specifically, but we have a list, or some of them we've pulled out. So I don't know if we want to go to the next slide.
Sure. Yeah. So it's once you start spending time with the SDGs, it's amazing how much alignment you can find with activities that you're already doing, and leverage some of the documentation and resources and communication that's been outlined by the UN to communicate some of the activities that are already occurring. So in this case, we looked at our research and started aligning it with these SDGs and things like our medical textiles research. For instance, this is a vascular graft here. And so that's, ties directly in with SDG 3. And here in my unit, the extension unit, we work quite heavily with our economic developers across the state. And we try to help target company expansion or new investments in the state to our lower income counties to help spread the prosperity. And then we've also developed a need-based scholarship program here in the College of Textiles called the Pioneers Program that gives a pretty expansive scholarship to students from our Tier 1 and Tier 2 counties. So if you're not familiar with our tier system here in North Carolina, our economic development groups get together and look at wage data, employment data, and some other key demographic points to tier our 3 counties, which prioritizes them for economic development incentives. So Tier 1 and Tier 2 counties are the less prosperous, less wealthy counties. So Wake County would be a Tier 3 county. So here on this map, you can see where our first batch of Pioneer Scholars came from these 5 counties that are highlighted. Looking at gender equality, so we work a lot on uniforms and fit, particularly targeting female firefighters and other female first responders. Karen already mentioned.
Oh,
go ahead.
I'll go back. I'm just going to say also, you may know that Dr. Kate Annette Hitchcock is also the real driver for AWE, the women's entrepreneurship group on campus. And so I think that comes into this gender equality very much too, that type of thing. So I didn't mean to interrupt, but that's just kind of different flip side of it. We're lucky. We're in a college that's very diverse. And so we have the opportunity to touch on a lot of different things.
So you've already talked about water, but we do work a lot with filtration, which has direct ties to sanitation for water. So being able to separate different components of contaminated water streams is one of the big pieces of work that we do. Energy. So we actually are working on, this is an image of a fiber that has functional enzymes encapsulated in the material, and that those enzymes can actually capture carbon dioxide from the airstream. And so in this case, you actually see it fizzing in the liquid stream here. So you could have, the waste air coming out of a plant and be able to capture the CO2 from that using this process. So right now, obviously very small scale, but hoping to scale that up. Again, I mentioned economic development. So this is one of our groundbreaking ceremonies, but we, one of our major drivers is to help the textile industry grow in North Carolina, which leads to jobs and opportunity. Karen, this is really you. You want to talk about this one?
Yeah, I had to get to my unmute. Yeah. So another very exciting thing is looking at what we call the digital footprint of a fabric. And so being able to put technology into the actual fiber component, knowing exactly what that fiber, yarn, fabric cut and sew where it's been done and what's been put into it. And the idea is then that goes into the garment, and we don't want to track anybody. We don't want to know what you do, but it's really difficult when garments are returned for recycling. We really don't know what they've been through. And so the hope is with this digital ID that when it comes back in for recycling, you'll know exactly what you can do with it, where it's been. And we're starting to use blockchain technology in this. And I kind of feel like sustainability is driving technology, but technology is also driving sustainable processes to go through. So we did a project on this. We had some funding actually from the Target Foundation and the Sustainability Consortium, and we worked with Arizona State and the University of Arkansas, and the students were just great to participate in this, and the technology works. So we're probably 10 years from getting it actually into garments, but it's really exciting because it will help us know what to do with the waste that's collected if we can get people to not send it to landfill. So yeah, it's exciting.
So another piece, reducing inequality within and among countries. So a lot of us have probably heard about the Bangladesh tower collapse. It's been quite a few years ago now. I mean, within the last decade, but I don't remember the exact year. But many people were injured and killed, unfortunately, in that. And beyond that particular tragedy, the wages for garment workers is generally pretty low. So we had a student that looked at working to understand what it would cost to provide a living wage, and he found it was 10 cents more per garment to be able to provide a living wage to the garment workers in the factories in Bangladesh particularly. And so that's that article has gotten quite a bit of traction and a lot of attention with talking about how the sourcing model really contributes to that inequality, because they're always chasing the lowest bottom line cost and not understanding the full cost of production really within the full ecosystem. So that was a really big piece of impactful research. Karen, you want to talk about this one a little bit?
Sure. So so recycling is a huge word that means a lot of different things to different people, but in ways of incorporating this in our fashion textile design classes, they actually looked at upcycling, where they take a garment that is considered waste and has been thrown out, and then they either redesign it or they take pieces from various garments. And the whole thing on this is trying to divert it from a landfill, giving longer part of life. This is all part of the circularity concept that you've got. How do you make the life last longer, and how do you reuse it and keep it in the usage part, never going to waste? And so we're actually doing this in our lower level design classes, where we're giving the students the challenge to actually do this. So it's kind of a think and do type of thing, aligning with the university tagline now.
So looking at goal 15, a lot of what we do is looking at alternative fiber sources. So unfortunately in textiles right now, a lot of our fiber materials are resource heavy. So looking at ways that we can reduce our dependence on petrochemicals, how can we reduce our impact on the land with the crops that are grown for textiles like cotton. So looking at things like hemp, which has a lower impact on the environment for its growth, looking at alternative fiber sources like bio-based materials. So in this picture in particular is a bacterially produced polymer that has some really good properties and some potential to replace some of the traditional polymers that we use in textile goods. And then also ones that can break down once they are at the end of their useful life as a product. And so that can contribute to the circularity or recycling model to help us divert things from the landfill. And then partnerships. So we work a lot with our industry. We are very much connected to a lot of our corporate partners. So folks like VF, Gildan, Evernew, Novozymes, Shimaseki, Hanes Brands, Kanika, Parkdale. So a lot of these companies are actually located or have offices right here in North Carolina. Some of them like VF and Hanes Brands actually have offices here on campus. And so they're really important partners in helping us fund the research, but also helping us with commercialization and actually making an impact beyond the walls of the university. So that's been really important for us to grow these different projects and expand them out into the greater world.
And I think not only that, but
Okay.
it also provides opportunities for students to work on this at the undergraduate and graduate level. So, you know, I kind of look at it that we're trying to prepare the future leaders in our industry. And they may not go out this year when they graduate, but, you know, hopefully in 5 or 10 years, they'll be the change makers. And so giving them the opportunity to work on this while they're learning about the industry. And of course, our partnerships with these industry gives us real life situations. And that's so important that I think we leverage the opportunity to work with them, like Melissa said, on getting things commercialized, but also in engaging our students in an active hands-on opportunity to learn more about it.
Great point. So we also wanted to leave everyone with a few keys to the success that we've had with our committee, and one of the, you know, some of the things that we think have really contributed to our ability to have the level of project completion that we've had, as well as the level of community engagement. So Shawn, you want to kick it off?
Yeah, I mean, I think I mentioned earlier that it will, I love to see the day when the university is really pushing some of these things at a unit level from a financial standpoint, as well as everything that WR and the sustainability office is doing with grants and that type of thing. And that's what we're getting at our dean's level. He's extremely supportive. It's one of the few committees at our college that actually has a budget. Most of our committees don't, as you can imagine. Most committees don't have budgets, but we do have a budget, and that helps us really, figure out what's the best way to use that. So, and then having somebody, it's me in this case, but that is in charge of facilities and finance that's on that committee really helps. What can we do? What can't we do? And come up with ways to make things happen. I think none of us like to be on committees where we just get in there and everybody shares their opinion and nothing gets done. We like to be on committees where things are actually happening. And so, there was a lot of back and forth, I think, on some committees when they have all these great ideas and grand schemes, and then they get to the point where they have to pay for something and there's no money to do it. So having somebody there kind of shortcuts that process a little bit. So.
Yeah, Karen?
Yeah, and we're also very fortunate. We have very active people on the committee as well as in the Wilson College community. And Janie Woodbridge is joining us, and she's actually co-chair of the committee this year. So
Hi,
we
everybody.
have a lot of exciting things going on. And Andre West is another faculty member, and he's actually the advisor for the Greater Good Textile Group. But our student involvement, they have driven a lot of what we do. I just have to tell you, they are so creative and so energized, and we are fortunate that we have had very active students on our committee. We've also tried to participate in the Make-a-thon to encourage students in our college, and this is a place where we were fortunate to get some funding. Although I will tell you, 2 people on the committee said, if we can't get funding, we'll just pay the awards, because we feel it's so important to encourage our students, and our students stepped up and they participated. We've gotten ideas from our staff about the K-cups. They're actually there. This is something that they want to do. So we think that the key to success is allowing people to give us ideas and then seeing if we can make it work. And we've had the support from the dean's office. We've had the support from the sustainability office. Lani, this is the second presentation you worked with our group on. And so just getting that support and trying to align. So I want to thank everybody on the call right now, as well as all my colleagues within the Wilson College and our friends and alumni, because it's exciting when we make things work, and that keeps us going.
And we can't talk enough about how important the Sustainability Fund grants have been in helping us get these projects off the ground. Because having that external funding really does plant the seed that this is important. It's supported, that, it's not just, kind of a flash in the pan, that there's real effort and drive behind this, and has helped us actually gain additional funding to help move some of the projects forward as well. And then I think the biggest thing is find people who are doers. Like, we can talk about things a lot, but if you're not willing to put the effort in, if you're not willing to chase the contractors around, or, follow the paperwork up the trail, and we all know how painful that can be sometimes. But finding people who are actually, willing to put the extra time and effort in to do the work is probably just about the biggest thing, because Otherwise, it just doesn't get done, and we never really actually move the needle. So we're pretty proud of the work that we've done. Many of us are on the committee year over year. It is a really great group of people, and so we all look forward to doing this together every year. And with that, we'll have a few minutes for questions, I think.
Yeah, there was one. Thank you, first of all, because I'm always astounded at how much work your committee does get done. It is amazing that this is a committee definitely in action being underlined a million times, right? But a question did come through from Sarah, and she was really interested to know about how you removed plastic water bottles from your college. Was that just in cafes or in vending machines, or how did that work out?
So right now we have only attacked it in the direction of the events and food that we control. So that's with our catering.
Okay.
So when we have short courses, we have external caterers that come in, and we have a refrigerator that we stock with beverages for the participants. So we've just removed all of the plastic bottles from that stream and are only providing canned beverages, which we can, recycle pretty easily. And then also providing the drinking cups, and then having the water bottle filling station stationed right outside of our break room and classroom. That we use for those events, so it's very simple for our participants just to walk over and fill up a cup. So that we have not tried to tackle like our shuttle-in cafe that we have here, or the Port City Java that we have here on campus, because we, and that's outside of our control, unfortunately. So hopefully, though, the university at some point will help us make that push.
Another question that came through is, your committee has working so much. How do you find time to balance that work within the committee as well as your own faculty administrative type of responsibilities?
I'm going to go ahead and start. I think, first of all, many people on the committee are very passionate. And I think if it weren't for that passion, we've been very fortunate on this committee that we do have a lot of passionate people that are willing to go outside. I mean, I get emails from Shawn and Melissa both, and Janie, at weird times, not during normal hours. And I think that we're very fortunate, and our students are also very passionate about it. And so I think that that's part of it, is just the commitment that we've been fortunate to have on the committee to make it happen. I think for me personally, one of the things is that when I reach out to people across campus, Carla for one, and say, hey, we'd like to do this, I'm usually, I usually get a positive response. And so I think everybody on the committee has done things individually and just said, okay, we're going to do this. If nobody can help me, we're just going to do it. I'm hoping to make that happen. But there is a balance that has to come in. And we have 2 administrators who are crazy busy, and we have an assistant professor who needs to get tenure, and and that kind of thing. So I think it's just the commitment. I'd love to hear what other people on the committee think, but that's part of it. I think it's just that inner feeling that this is important to do for our college, for the university, and for the future, the future people on the planet.
Yeah, I put it in the chat as well, but I think for me, there's been a lot of grace, right? The people we have a lot of to-dos. I usually come away with a lot of to-dos, and sometimes it might take me 6 months to get something done. But the fact that people don't hound me about it, and they just kindly ask, hey, where is this? But they're not like, I can't believe this hasn't gotten done yet. It kind of energizes you to keep going, right? And so I think there's that. I think sometimes people get burned out when they have expectations, and people don't give them the understanding like you did of, we'd have another job. And then they just like, well, I don't want to be a part of a committee that makes me feel guilty for not getting things done. So I think we all understand that we want to get it done. And sometimes people will chip in and say, hey, can I help with that? Many times I've had multiple people on the committee say, hey, can I just do that, for you? Because I know you're busy right now doing this over here. So that kind of teamwork is just huge. And like I said, the grace of not making somebody feel guilty when they can't get it done. So give them some time, give them some space.
And I would point out that we've done this work over 4 years. And so, that's, knowing what we can eat in a year and what we can't, is, scoping that. and saying, we know we can do this much this year, and picking a few key things we want to focus on. And if we have space for other things, we'll do that too. But really having priorities to say, these are the 3 things we'd really like to achieve this year, has really helped us with that as well. And then, as Shawn said, and it's a good group. And so when we notice, if someone's overwhelmed with something, another person will just say, hey, is there something I can do to help you with that? And so to the extent that we are capable within our roles, we will share the workload and pass it around as needed too, because each of us have busy seasons and less busy seasons, although it feels like we have fewer less busy seasons than we used to. But that shared workload is really key. And that's the sense of community too, that all helps us stay engaged even when things are overwhelming.
But our list is this long of things we want to do.
Yeah.
Right? We do keep
Speaking of that list, a follow-up question that came through was, do you meet monthly, quarterly, or just via email? Like, what are the logistics behind your actual committee? Because you're doing so many things.
We try and meet monthly. I mean, that's kind of the way it goes. I think November this year we have 2 because we're not going to meet in December. So, that type of thing. And, but we try and meet monthly, and we find a time that most people can meet. And we typically have good participation. And, as other people have said, if people are assigned something, they go away, they do it, or they, it's been a great committee to work on. And that kind of thing. And yeah, so I don't know, there may be other things logistically. We have a shared drive, but that we go to look for things and that as well. But I think mostly those monthly meetings, and we've just had people that are really responsible in doing the work.
Yeah, the shared drive. And then this year, our new adventure is the Trello board. So we're figuring that out.
I am a Trello lover.
Oh, yeah.
So I actually have to tell you, when we were talking about it, I was like, okay, I cannot do Trello till next semester. We're just gonna have to leave it on this. And so we're transitioning. That's what we call it. We're transitioning. But I think Melissa right now is probably our best Trello person. Shawn's good at it too. Yeah.
We've been doing it in ZTE, and the dean's implemented it with some of his work as well. And so we've kind of all in varying stages of onboarding and acceptance there. It has a lot of value. It's just a matter of breaking old habits and implementing new ones.
Well, Karen, Shawn, Melissa, and Carla, I just wanted to thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with all of us today. We will be sharing the recording, which I finally pressed record. Sorry, Shawn. Thank you, Melissa, for telling me. With those who couldn't attend. But also, I just wanted to just remind everybody and to thank everybody that as individuals, we can magnify our work, and that amazing things can happen with the passion and the grace that each one of you is showcasing today. And so a big round of applause to you all. So thank you so much for what you do. And thank you for sharing all of the work that you have. So thank you. Yay!
Thank you so much for having us and for being such a good partner in so many of these projects.
Of course. Thank you all. And if you have any questions, there will be a follow-up email where I will share some of your contact information with everybody, so people can email you directly. Have a wonderful Wednesday, everyone. Enjoy your fall day.
Thank
you. You too.